Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is the best professional wrestling podcast from pillar to post. Petree's Pit. I'm your host, Ray Petree, joined once again by my co-host, my tag team partner, the Arn Anderson to my Tully Blanchard, JDO. What's up, brother?
Going on, man? Long time no see. Even though we literally just saw each other about 10 minutes ago. Just finished watching the Royal Rumble. Very, very exciting, very shocking. Got a lot to talk about.
It is almost 11:30. We finished the Rumble, like everyone else did about 50 minutes ago. Scrambled back, got ready to record this podcast because we have a lot of thoughts. This was a very interesting Royal Rumble on both sides, men's and women's. There were some good matches. One was better than the other, but a very momentous event, especially for a couple of wrestlers, and major implications for WrestleMania, like we talked about before, and we will continue to say. WrestleMania season is kind of like the playoffs for the WWE. This is when things really matter. This is when the most eyes are on the product. And while Raw's debut on Netflix was the beginning of WrestleMania season, as it is, the Royal Rumble's the first big step. Now we can start postulating what's going to happen at WrestleMania. So before we get into it, episode 16 of Petree's Pit, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you feel so inclined, and leave us a comment of anything you thought about the event. If you have any thoughts about our reactions or our comments, our frustrations, anything we think. We'd love to hear what you thought about this Royal Rumble. I think every episode from now on, we're going to try to do a Q&A section at the end of these videos, little mailbag. So please leave us questions if you guys would like us to answer them next week. But with that out of the way, we're going to get right into the meat of the matter, something we can sink our teeth into, because quite frankly, we were shocked as hell. The men's Royal Rumble. We've been, I think the community, the WWE universe has talked about for the better part of 2 or 3 months now that this is going to be the most stacked Royal Rumble that we've had in a long time. Because just quite frankly, there's so many guys open in the field. There's so many great wrestlers in this bullpen right now, and they were all vying for that shot at WrestleMania in the main event. Um, just to name a few people: John Cena, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, LA Knight, both the mid-card champions, Shinsuke Nakamura, Braun Breaker, guys like Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins. This was a stacked Rumble. And the man who came out of the field, he calls himself main event, Jey Uso, and he will be in the main event of WrestleMania this year. Um, just base level, Jordan, what was your reaction to seeing Jey Uso win the Royal Rumble?
Shock and awe would definitely be my reaction. I feel like I've been watching wrestling long enough to be able to have a somewhat decent idea of what's going to happen. But I can honestly say I that was probably the most shocked I've been to a wrestling result in quite a long time. I mean, like you just said, all of the guys in that Rumble match, all of that star power, and for in Jey Uso winning that match is just not something I ever would have expected. And I like Jey Uso. It's not entirely out of the realm of possibilities because of like we talked about before, how popular he is. He's a big merch mover. He's got that aura about him. He's got that Jeff Hardy 2008 type of aura to him. Just the crowd loves him. So it's not completely out of bounds for him to win. But yeah, it was just complete complete shock. And I remember putting my hands on my head, just like, what did I just witness? Was my initial reaction.
Yeah, final two, John Cena, Jey Uso. Like you said, if you've been watching wrestling for a long time, at a certain point, things seem like they're easy to read. And in that moment, it seemed like this was a foregone conclusion. John Cena's winning the Royal Rumble, and shock and all, like you said, eloquently put. this was a huge shocker. We last week we reviewed Saturday night's main event, and the main event obviously was Jey Uso versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. Jey Uso, valiant effort, great babyface comeback. I can't heap enough praise on him and the work he did last week. But we talked about, quite frankly, 5 to 7 years ago, he would have been a great guy in the main event of WrestleMania. But right now, things are so talented. It was just so hard to conceive. And here we are, 2025, winner of the Royal Rumble. Let's talk about the field here because I mean, I can't stress enough. This was tremendous. Just, between obviously the current Hall of Famer in Rey Mysterio and then future Hall of Famers like The Miz, Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura, Jey Uso, AJ Styles, Braun Strowman, a former Universal Champion, Sheamus, John Cena, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. Um, this is probably as stacked of a Rumbles we've seen in the last maybe 8 years. Um, just because, like I said, I mean, last year you have to think in the main event or the title match, it was Roman Reigns, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, and LA Knight. That takes a lot of guys off the table. And this year, it's just so much talent. And to your point, Jey Uso is a merchandise mover. He clearly has established a very unique connection with the fans, a la Jeff Hardy, a la Ricky Morton in the 80s. Guys who have that difficult to pinpoint charisma, and he's captured it. He is the attention of children, of older fans, obviously because of all the hard work he's put into this company. Going into the Rumble, Jordan, who did you think would be in the final four of this Rumble?
I believe my final four that I had was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Braun Breaker, uh, Fatu, Punk, and Roman. I think is what I said. Maybe I might have
Something
swapped. I
like
mean,
that.
yeah, I might have swapped somebody out. Yeah, something like that. The typical names, the guys who are the big stars. The guys with the ones that I could see being involved in a match at WrestleMania.
Mhm.
That it would be conceivable for that. Um, Needless to say, Jey Uso was not who I would have predicted. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah,
and
it's crazy.
I mean, I've been planning this podcast for weeks. I could have prefaced this by saying the Royal Rumble is my favorite pay-per-view event in all of wrestling, and I'm not the biggest WWE fan, um, because the nature of the spectacle, 30 entrants, you get to see 30 superstars. A good Rumble has subplots that play into storylines later or build off of things in the past. It's not the biggest showcase of talent or in-ring expertise, but there's just an excitement around it that I enjoy so much because it's a sample size of the company, and it allows you to gauge the um, the climate of the company and the quality of what's going on right now, how strong the bullpen is, and I love it. I look forward to it every year. Maybe not next year because it's going to be in Saudi Arabia, but generally speaking, I look forward to it every year. It's a big event. We have a party. Jordan was over, like we talked about. Uh, so but the result just really threw me off. I'm so hard to believe Jey Uso is the winner of this event and is going to go on to WrestleMania. And it shouldn't be because like we everything we just outlined is baseline perfect for a Royal Rumble candidate to win. This is a guy who's never had championship success. This is a platform to him to build upon, but it's just shocking. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns go at it. They basically put themselves in a position where Punk eliminates them. And then Logan Paul eliminates Punk. And listen, let's be honest, we hate Logan Paul for reasons that have nothing to do with wrestling, obviously. For his personal actions, the decisions he's made in the past, he's just a scumbag. And we were not happy, and not in a way that's like, oh, a heel got heat. It was like, why would you make this decision? And then we end up in this result where it's Cena, Uso, one-on-one. It had like a 5-minute match, it felt like.
Yeah, yeah. But like, before we move past this, yeah, yeah, yeah. Fuck Logan Paul. I'm so sick and tired of Triple H trying to shove Logan Paul in everybody's throats. He is such a worthless piece of garbage as a human being. I don't care. I don't care if he's a good wrestler. I do not care because that's what everybody talks about. Oh, he's such a great wrestler. He's so natural. I don't care. I don't like him. He's a terrible human being. I don't want to see him on my TV screen. Every time he comes on my screen, I turn it off. The only time I don't is when it's on pay-per-views, and that's just because I'm already invested in what's going on. But yeah, like I was really enjoying this Rumble, and then this jackass comes out at number 30. Like, so not only do you give one of the most coveted spots in the Rumble match to Logan freaking Paul instead of anybody else on God's green earth, like anybody. Find Doink the Clown, have him come out at number 30 as opposed to Logan Paul. Not only that, but then you have him involved with the main event talent in the company, and you have him eliminate CM Punk, who I really wanted to win the Rumble.
Hmm.
I thought he would have been a great person to win the Rumble. But even if you have him get eliminated, why does it have to be Logan Paul? Like, what does Logan Paul have on Triple H or whoever else? Like, what does he have holding over their heads to have him be in these spots? Like, I'm just so sick of it. Like, I don't care about Logan Paul. Like, it's one thing if you have a celebrity in there for like what ISO Speed did, just
Hmm.
a little small thing, kind of a little comedy act, whatever. That's fine. But to have this fucking walking piece of garbage get involved in the Rumble, it brings the Rumble down.
Yeah.
It's like when he had the U.S. title, it lowered the value of the U.S. title for me
Yeah.
because he's just that much of a negative presence. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because I wanted to just to let everybody know how much I truly do not like Logan Paul.
Yeah, let's
And I
draw the
hope,
line in the sand.
yeah, just I hope to God I don't have to see him anymore. I feel like the fans have given plenty of negative reaction to him that it should be obvious that they don't want to see him anymore. Like like it's not him being a good heel. Like it's not what it is. They don't like him. They don't want to see him. He's a disease to everything he touches. So, I'm not going to go through all the things outside of the wrestling business that are why I hate him because he's got plenty.
Yeah.
Just I don't want to see him in wrestling anymore. I don't want to see it.
You know, I don't really want to get too off the beaten path here, but you had this son of a bitch in the Royal Rumble. You had this son of a bitch hold the US championship. Like I said, let's draw the line in the sand. On this podcast, we hate this son of a bitch. He's a bastard. He's not a good person. He doesn't deserve the light of day, the spotlight, the platform that the WWE gives him. And in light of the Janelle Grant lawsuit that's been revised, in lieu of the people that they've allowed ringside, these legends. Um, as a fan, like I said, I don't want to get too far off the beaten path, but it's hard at times to enjoy the WWE product when there are so many great fucking wrestlers on this program. In this Rumble alone, this microcosm of this company, so many great guys in this Rumble, and it's hard to just blindly enjoy the product because in the back of my mind, I know it's run by scumbags. They allow scumbags to walk all over it. It's so frustrating. It's why, quite frankly, never been the biggest WWE fan, and I never will be. Because it's so hard to get behind these people, the company, the people in charge, and to see the son of a bit. Listen, biggest CM Punk fan you're going to find. This bastard eliminated him, probably the biggest draw in the fucking company. For what? For cheap heat? People already fucking hate his guts. They don't like him because of who he is. He doesn't need to eliminate AJ Styles and CM Punk. Give me a damn break. Get a fucking heel, a Dominic Mysterio, who's already really has a nuclear heat already. But a Finn Balor could have done it. Someone who really needs the heat could have done that. Anyways, let's get that out of the way. I'm glad you mentioned that. Um, who was the biggest surprise for you in the men's rumble in terms of the entrance? In terms of who surprised you that they came out the most?
Uh, boy, I mean, I think AJ was one because I wasn't entirely sure
Hmm.
that he was going to come out. Um, I mean, as far as other surprises, there weren't as many as I thought there would be. I thought there might be a couple other ones. I really think AJ was the only big one. Um, I mean the ISO speed thing was cool. It was a cool little moment.
Yeah.
As far as surprises, they're really AJ. I think was really the only guy that was a surprise. Um, but yeah, it's as far as surprises, I was thinking maybe The Rock would come out. We talked about the whole come out at 31 thing. That didn't happen. Um, as far as returns, there really I don't think was anybody else in line that I can think of. Uh, and like we said, there was just so much talent already in it that a big return wasn't necessary.
Mhm.
So as far as returns for this year, there it was really just AJ. He was the real big uh, surprise.
I was happy to see Rey Mysterio and Penta start this because they have so much history together. It was a great way to continue shining a light on Penta. And I mean, the presentation is off the charts. Guy looks like a superstar. And I don't just mean that in the WWE sense. The guy looks like he is bound for gold. Um, he kind of botched the beginning there. His feet it looked like his feet hit the floor. Um, but it happens. Mistakes happen. Just looking at it looks like we have a few people tied for four eliminations in this. Jacob Fatu, Braun Breaker, Roman Reigns, all had four eliminations. Not shocking in terms of those are four very dominant guys. You, a huge Braun Breaker fan, uh, effort, attitude, toughness. That's
Yeah.
son of a bitch. How would you rate his performance in the Rumble this year?
I think it was good. I think that he's still probably another year or so out.
Hmm.
Um, if he's in the Rumble next year, which unfortunately would be in Saudi Arabia, but I think he'll probably have a bigger moment then. Have another year of seasoning on the main roster. Maybe he'll get involved in a little bit more of the main event picture. But I think this was a good step. I mean, to have really the only person who's able to stop you be Roman Reigns.
Hmm.
I mean, that's as good as you can hope
Yeah.
for a guy that I think they're expecting a lot out of in Braun Breaker. Uh, but to me, another guy who I thought was really a show stealer was Jacob Fatu.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been slowly on the come up since Solo's kind of taken a back seat. He's really stepped up, and I mean, he's just been on a tear. And I mean, the crowd is just behind him 100%, even though he's a bad guy. But yeah, he's got that it factor. And I know you're a big Jacob Fatu guy. You were on him early
Hmm.
back when he was in MLW. So, what was your take on his performance?
He looked great. I mean, uh, he looked fantastic. And I think, Triple H is hyper aware of the fact that every moment, every little encounter matters a lot because it's going to be used down the road later on. And it's something that fans are going to remember. Very interesting. Both Braun Breaker and Jacob Fatu had one-on-one moments with Roman Reigns, one-on-one confrontations, because both of these guys not only pose a threat to Roman, but they probably down the road will work with Roman. I feel like, anyways. I just like a few years ago, Gunter and Cody locked up at the end of that Rumble. No surprise, they've since then had a pay-per-view main event match. Um, so yeah, I think both of them excelled. Jacob Fatu looked fantastic once again. I mean, the guy, his skill set is unreal. His athletic abilities are unreal. He's really mastered that Samoan monster type of archetype. He's fantastic. I mean, he lasted a long time for sure, but I wish he'd been in that Final Four. Um, but eliminated by Braun Strowman. Maybe they're going to continue this storyline. Well, I think obviously they're going to continue this storyline. Um, I just hope Braun Strowman doesn't lose so convincingly next time. Um, we'll talk about Mania predictions later on because obviously this had absolute major ramifications for what the Mania main events are going to look like. Um, but any other thoughts in general about the men's Royal Rumble?
Well, I think the there's two things I think that were kind of important, and one was, where does Cena go from here? Obviously, once all the other big names were thrown out, it was him and Jay. I mean, I think everybody in the building and everybody watching at home thought that he was going to win.
Hmm.
It made the most sense, and obviously he did not. So I'm assuming this means that he will compete at the Elimination Chamber, uh, which I guess for what he's trying to do in this last run makes sense because if he won the Rumble, there's no reason for him to wrestle the Elimination Chamber.
Hmm.
So in that vein, it makes sense. Um, so there's that, and also too the other I mean pretty major thing that happened that Punk eliminates Rollins and Reigns, then Logan Paul gets eliminated, or I'm sorry, Logan Paul eliminates Punk,
Hmm.
and I think both of us were kind of we were in shock that all three of those guys got eliminated, and also we were just seething at the fact that Logan Paul was involved in it. But
Hmm.
also you have to think about everything that happened after that.
Yeah.
Punk and Reigns kind of go face to face. Then Rollins stomps Reigns on the floor. Punk and Rollins get into a fight. Rollins goes back. He stomps Reigns into the steps. Punk looks at a almost tearful Paul Heyman, and all Punk and Rollins walk out. Rollins goes up the entranceway. Punk leaves through the crowd. I mean that right there. I mean that we talk about being surprised Jey Uso won the Rumble, but you think about all the stories that are intertwined with those three guys.
Yes.
I mean, they don't even need the Rumble to be able to make a compelling match at WrestleMania.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that to me is the bigger thing. It's like, where is this going to lead? You have with Rollins, Reigns, and Punk. Those three are obviously intertwined. Is it going to lead to a triple threat? Is it going to lead to Seth turning into a bad guy?
Hmm.
Is where does it leave Punk with the favor that is owed to him by Paul Heyman, the wise man?
Yes.
I mean, I think that result right there, it kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit because of everything that happened around it. But I mean, that I think will have huge ramifications for how WrestleMania turns out.
Yeah, that I mean the Seth and Roman moment in the ring was phenomenal. Both those guys, masters at their craft. Um, and everything that's happened to them in the past, especially last year at Mania, a lot of it culminated last year at Mania, but now it's brought back to the forefront. They played that perfectly. I'm glad that they gave those two the spotlight in the middle of the ring during the Rumble. And then, like you said, Punk eliminates Seth and Roman while they're tangled up on the ropes. Logan Paul eliminates Punk. Seth goes ballistic, gives two stomps to Roman Reigns, while he's on the ground. And then everything else that you mentioned happened, of course. If I mean, it looks like those three guys will be heading to Elimination Chamber because they all want another shot at a main event at WrestleMania. Obviously, John Cena, same like you said. I think you laid that out perfectly. You lose the tension there if his search for WrestleMania main events been found, and he wants to compete in the Elimination Chamber. He mentioned he wants to do all these things to get that shot. Um, does he? I mean, does that mean he loses Elimination Chamber, goes to the Money in the Bank, does a ladder match? I mean, how far are we going to take this? I guess, but yeah, I think I can see all four of those guys in that Elimination Chamber match, and it's usually a field of six, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So that leaves
four in the pod, two in the match. Yeah.
yeah, so that leaves two other spots. Which I think, I mean, if you have those four alone in the Elimination Chamber, that's awesome. Maybe you throw two younger guys in there and
Drew.
spice up the field. You could have Drew in there. Absolutely. Drew's a great choice. A Sami Zayn, someone that comes to mind. Yeah, I mean, the Elimination Chamber could be stacked this year as well, but yeah, I mean that I definitely think you're onto something there in terms of those three guys will be involved in a storyline together at WrestleMania, even if that leads through the Elimination Chamber and going forward. Um, I love the fire that Seth had. I mean, I love that he delivered those two stomps, making Roman seem sympathetic in a way. I love Paul Heyman's reaction to it. I mean, he sells everything so well with so much emotion. And then Punk, what did he whisper? I mean, I couldn't hear it. I don't know. Maybe some people could, or we weren't listening, but
Yeah,
wonder what he whispered to him.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would assume it has to do with the favor that he's owed. I mean,
Absolutely.
that they made such a big point of that it's going to come into play at some point.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, the funny thing about this whole thing is that when you look at Seth's reaction to Roman, it's like he has every right to be angry at Roman. Like
Mhm.
you think about the guys who are, you know, when they're mad at Roman, they're kind of looked at as the bad guys. But you think, I mean, Roman was the ultimate heel for all that time,
Yeah.
and he just destroyed so many people. He cheated in so many matches, and he really screwed these guys over multiple times. And it when you really think about it, how complex the story is that they have a reason. Like Seth has a reason to be mad at Roman because of how much of an asshole he was while he's a tribal chief. Still is. I mean, like I said before in a previous show, Roman's never apologized for anything he's done. He's kind of maybe implied that he felt bad, but every time he's been pressed on it to apologize for how he's acted, and to seek that penance, he's never done it. Like we heard when Sammy asked him to apologize, Roman said was a waste of his time. Like he still has that arrogance about him. It's just now the fans are cheering him. So Roman, or excuse me, Seth being just angry at Roman because it feels like Roman is always getting in his way. It's funny because it's just like he has a reason to be angry about it. Um, so we'll kind of see where that goes because obviously, Seth lost it and it's been kind of building like he's going to lose it. He's tired of Roman. He's tired of dealing with him. He's tired of all these other guys suddenly forgiving him and helping him. Uh, that could be an interesting twist down the line. So a lot of ways this could go.
Yeah. I think this is as good of a time as any to talk about this. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds. I know we have a few other things to mention just about this premium live event, but one thing I will say is that Seth Rollins was the Judas of the Shield. He was the one that betrayed them. And over time, the Shield reconciled with him because he proved that in wrestling, things can be forgiven, but they're never forgotten. And Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, and Roman Reigns eventually forgave Seth for that, but they didn't forget. So it's a little hypocritical for Seth to not forgive Roman when, while, yeah, he has not apologized for anything, he has tried to lead differently. He has tried to conduct himself differently. Um, so on one hand, I understand what you're saying. In terms of Drew McIntyre, certainly, I understand what you're saying. But I feel like it's a little hypocritical of Seth to not then extend that favor to Roman. Plus, also, they only wrestled once. It was at the Royal Rumble, and Seth won that match by disqualification. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, Seth won it by disqualification. Roman Reigns has still yet to beat Seth Rollins in a match, if I'm not mistaken. So on that end, I understand what you're saying, but I feel like at the same time, they are building towards Seth Rollins being a bad guy. I feel like, and just the hypocrisy of what he's saying and how he's conducting himself. But I also think, and we've discussed this before, but uh, you know, uh, CM Punk defeated Seth Rollins the same way he beat Jon Moxley. GTS, bounce off the ropes, land on the shoulders, another GTS. Same exact finish. It was mirrored perfectly by Seth Rollins. Great selling job. Clearly, they're building us. They're weaving this story here that CM Punk is at the center of the Shield's problems because he essentially caused them. He's the one that formed this group. He's the one that's basically cast this insecurity in Roman Reigns' head that he wasn't the one that was supposed to be chosen. Supposed to be Chris Hero. And Seth was supposed to be the leader, but Seth betrayed them. And they all hate CM Punk because he left the company. And the people were cheering his name. And the guys that were working their asses off weren't getting the recognition they deserved. So, I mean, all this is intertwined, beautifully so. I mean, this is great storytelling, not just in wrestling, but at a fundamental level. Um, if we're talking three-act structure, I mean, we're hitting the middle, and I'm sure WrestleMania is going to be the end. And I'm excited to see where it goes. Any other thoughts about this?
Uh, no, I don't think so. I think we hit everything. I think we hit all the major points, all the major players. Um, yeah, I don't think anything else major really came out of it.
Sure. Um, Moving on to the Women's Royal Rumble, and we'll start at the end. The winner of the Women's Royal Rumble, Charlotte Flair, returned after, has she been out for a year now? I
I
should
think
have done my homework
yeah, I
before
think it's been yeah, I think it's been about a year, I think. Yeah,
I
typically like with ACL, MCL, meniscus, those injuries usually take about a year to recover from.
she got hurt in December of 2023. So
Yeah, a year.
yeah, so a little over a year.
Yeah,
I was gonna say because we saw her live in 2023, so it definitely hasn't been more than a year and a half. So
yeah.
anyway, so yeah, so she returned and won the Royal Rumble. She has been teasing vignettes to be returning. She announced her return on SmackDown. So it wasn't exactly a shocking return. She entered the Rumble at 27, which is, they talk all the time about the numbers and how the numbers matter. And 27, from my understanding, a pretty advantageous position to start at. Quite a few people have won at 27.
Mm.
Um, you were not happy about this, and I'm going to let you take the floor.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't thrilled about it, and it's not that like uh, I don't hate Charlotte Flair. I just think she's one of the best women's wrestlers in the business. Um, I'm, I'm assuming that. Well, I mean, really, she could. The good thing about her winning the Rumble is that she could face either Tiffany Stratton or Rhea Ripley, and it would make sense, and they would both be great matches. Um, to me, it's another situation of, we talk about WWE doing the same thing over and over again and never doing anything different, which is why, as I've had time to sit and digest it, uh, Jey Uso winning the Rumble is actually, you know, I think it's a cool thing because it's not the same type of thing. It's something different.
Mhm.
Um, and again, like I don't hate Charlotte Flair winning the Rumble. I would have preferred somebody else because of how many great women were in it. I would have liked somebody like Bianca, even though she's obviously won it before and she's been a champion before. But I thought it would have been good for her to win the Rumble and really just get out of the tag team, uh, you the tag team lane that she's been put in.
Mhm.
Um, you know, Anybody else, Roxanne Perez probably would have been, I think, the best one to win it.
Mhm.
Coming off the great run she's had in NXT, really being able to have her win the Rumble and really cement herself on the main roster, I thought would have been great. So yeah, there were people that I would have preferred win the Rumble over Charlotte because I don't think she really needed it.
Mhm.
But if the end result of it is she ends up wrestling, like Tiffany Stratton and Bianca ends up wrestling Rhea Ripley, that would be like my preferred outcome because that's kind of what I want to see. Even though Charlotte and Rhea, would be a great match. We've already seen it a couple times. Um, I think having something, a little different, having like Tiffany wrestle Charlotte, then Bianca and Rhea, I think would be great. Um, and yeah, like I said, it was predictable. I mean, they teased her winning. It wasn't a shock that she won. It was kind of like when Cody came back from his injury. They announced it, he's going to be back at the Rumble. You knew he was coming, and you kind of figured he was going to win. And it was the same thing with Charlotte. So it was kind of that same playbook.
Um, yeah, yeah. So when we watched the Rumble, we watched it together. So I'm asking him questions, but I know how he felt, obviously. He was upset. And my retort was, and I stand by this, is that one, Charlotte Flair's getting up there in age. Her time is finite. And on top of that, that concern is magnified by the fact that she can't really seem to stay healthy anymore. And let's just be honest. Her and Becky Lynch both have put in the work. They've put the miles on the road. They've busted their ass to make this division what it was. And now, I think their absence is the reason why it is what it is right now. Because you know, they don't have a lot of time left, at least as a full-time wrestler. I don't think we're going to see Charlotte Flair wrestle a full schedule ever again. She's already missed a month this year, I mean, just put that in perspective. So, um, yeah, I think you have to strike while the iron's hot. She's available. You let her win it. I understand the sentiment that LOL, it's Charlotte Flair. She's going to win another title because she's already a 14-time champion. She's been wrestling for like 10 years. But I like the decision, especially when you look at the field of women that competed in this Royal Rumble. I would have preferred Roxanne Perez. I think that would have been a huge way to introduce her to the main roster. She could have had a great match with either Rhea or Tiffany Stratton. But, you know, I think Charlotte Flair's a better choice for a main event spot, which I use that term loosely, but um, I really expect her and Rhea to have this WrestleMania trilogy. We know how much the Flair family loves trilogies. So I expect her to pick Rhea and have this, she won the first one, Rhea won the second. Now here we have the rubber match. But I wouldn't mind seeing her face Tiffany, and I guess we'll talk about that more in depth later. But um, there were a lot of surprise entrants in this. Five NXT superstars showed up, which I was shocked by. I mean, that's a lot of NXT wrestlers. We had multiple Hall of Famers. Um, Tiffany, I'm sorry, Trish Stratus in number 30. Jordan, what did you think about the 30th entrant of this Royal Rumble?
Uh, well, for me, very underwhelming. Um, Nikki Bella obviously was the 30th entrant. It's been talked about that she was signing a contract with WWE to come back. Um, and like you pointed out to me, which I wasn't aware of, that her appearance on Raw on Netflix was the most viewed clip from Raw on Netflix, which is just crazy
Mhm.
to me. But Nikki Bella, she's always had that popularity that I might not understand, but you know, it obviously works for her. But yeah, I mean, I didn't like it. I didn't care. I was more interested in the other people in the match. I thought the NXT women getting a chance to shine in front of an audience that might not that really necessarily watch NXT. Stephanie Vacour, Julia, Jada Parker, Lash Legend, and that's not for me to say that I watch NXT every week. I don't,
Mhm.
but I at least try to keep up with some of the people and what they're doing,
Yeah.
or when they eventually come to the main roster. Uh, and I think it really, to see some of these women interact. it was really a breath of fresh air.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that's great about the Rumble is that you get people who don't normally interact with each other because of the brand splits.
Hmm.
You get to see them interact. You get to see them face off and kind of tease future matches. Uh, so I thought that part was great. But yeah, I mean, Trish Stratus coming in was, that was okay. It was cool. And like getting to see Jordan Grace was awesome. She looks like a freaking superstar. I mean, just in the short time she was in there and what she did was just, yeah, it was just awesome. Um, and yeah, everything else was great. Chelsea Green, I think, was in an underrated part of this match because when she came in, I mean, the whole crowd was behind her, you know, and like every time she would almost get eliminated, the crowd would go nuts because they didn't want her to get eliminated.
Yeah.
And I think when, like we just said with Jey Uso, when you have that crowd behind you, man, it does a lot. And right now, she definitely has the crowd behind her. So it just overall, I thought this was a well put together Rumble.
Yeah, I remember 2 years ago when Chelsea Green debuted at the Rumble. I was excited because she has great inclinations, great psychology. She just understands wrestling. She's great at selling, and she's found a niche with this Karen, like Madam President kind of role with Piper Niven that is a lot of fun. Obviously, like you said, the fans love it. They love her. But at the same time, she's a great heel, like in really classic ways that is refreshing in today's wrestling. Nia Jax performance, maybe performance of the night, 9 eliminations. I know you're not the biggest Nia Jax fan, but quite the dominant run she had. She didn't last super long. She entered 29, but the last leg of this rumble, of this women's rumble, felt like it was pretty long. I mean, this was an hour and 10 minutes, but that like last 10 to 15 minutes felt like they had not eliminated enough people up to that point, and is what it felt like to me. But um, yeah, Natalia, it was cool seeing her in this. Trish Stratus feels like she comes back every year for these. I mean, she's really like, talk about someone who was gone for a long time and has really come back as a cottage industry. I mean, you got a hell of a reaction from the crowd. People love Trish Stratus. They always have, and they probably always will. And yeah, to your point, the last person I want to touch on, Jordan Grace came in unaffiliated currently, no brand yet. She just left TNA, has made her sort of been re-debuted because not only she was in a Rumble before, but she was a TNA talent. I don't think people paid much mind to it. And then she was in NXT. Obviously, fewer people watch NXT than they do the main product. I'm excited to see what she does in WWE. I mean, we're looking at an Elimination Chamber coming up. She's someone I would really, she would be great, and not maybe not in the main event of a WrestleMania, but she'd be a great person to challenge one of the champions. She is awesome in the ring, man.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then also forgot to mention uh, probably maybe the biggest return of the night, Alexa Bliss, someone who uh, you know, depending on what you think of her. I mean, it was reported, reported on the internet that it didn't sound like she was going to come back. You know, even Michael Cole made a point to say that on the broadcast, maybe kind of taking a shot at like the Meltzers of the world,
Hmm.
uh, putting out those reports. But now she's back. The crowd went crazy when she came out. Um, Obviously, she came out as I guess the Wyatt Alexa Bliss,
Twisted
the
Bliss.
fiendish, yeah, the fiendish Alexa Bliss, which I'm not big on the whole Wyatt family thing. Never have been. Um, I really wasn't watching when she was doing the whole her part of the Wyatt family experience.
Hmm.
So, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I'm not really that invested in it. But, she came back. So that's another person with cachet in the women's division, which, you obviously can never have enough of those of women. Um, but yeah, definitely a lot of great returns, a lot of great showcases for certain people. So yeah, it was definitely good.
Yeah, a big return. She got a big reaction. One thing, this Indiana crowd, this Indianapolis crowd, very fickle. I mean, the tag match, they barely even made any noise. It was like no reaction at all. Honestly, it ruined that match because they didn't get any reaction. A lot of the wrestlers that came out, I mean, Meat Shin, nothing, crickets. A lot of these people just didn't get, a lot, and maybe for good reason, I guess, but I don't know. Just the crowd didn't seem very into this. 70,000 people, they said, which is exorbitant, but I don't know if it was the sound, like the acoustics or what, but it just didn't sound great. Alexa Bliss,
Yeah,
though, got a great reaction.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, in as far as like the Rumble entrances, the fucking entrance music, they either it's so bad that people don't recognize it, or they change it. Like even for me, when Finn Balor came out, I didn't even know that was him coming out
Yeah, his
because I
theme
didn't
sucks.
recognize it. Yeah, like I didn't even recognize it. I didn't it didn't sound anything like his entrance music.
Yeah,
And a lot of the entrance music for a lot of the talent just sounds the same. So in that vein, unless it's somebody who has a recognizable entrance music, the fans are kind of like, we don't even know who's coming out.
yeah,
So I think that was an issue as far as the crowd reaction. And then, there's just certain people that just the fans don't care about, like,
fair enough.
um, but yeah, the tag match, I don't want to, move on, too quickly, but yeah, the tag match, that was just really disappointing for me. Because I like the Motor City Machine Guns. Obviously, both of us have wanted tag team wrestling to have a resurgence in both companies. In WWE, man, they have a really talented pool of tag teams, and this crowd was just, I mean, it was just dead. Like it was, barely any reaction, maybe a couple of reactions to some moves, but yeah, it was crazy. And then the ending was confusing because you have the Street Profits come out and help DIY retain the titles, and then they attack DIY and say that they want the titles. So the ending was a little confusing. Um, but yeah, just the Indianapolis crowd, I was not impressed at all.
Yeah, I mean on Alexa Bliss, and after that, I guess we can move on because we've said our piece about the Women's Royal Rumble. But Alexa Bliss, it looks like she's going to come in and rescue this Wyatt family fiasco that I think has been butchered in a really seriously bad way by the booking. Had a lot of momentum coming in, a lot of momentum. A lot of people were really excited about it because it had that connection to Bray, and it's just fallen flat so hard. So, I guess she's going to lend her credibility to that gimmick, it looks like, maybe become its leader. But I was really hoping she'd come back as her original gimmick, because it's supposed to look like a sport. It's not supposed to be all this supernatural shit. I mean, the Undertaker really was like okay, like sure, he is an undead wizard who has lightning. He can shoot lightning and like, okay, whatever, fine. I mean, he's okay, but everyone else, like, I don't want to see it. Um, I don't want to say anything really hot tonight about Bray Wyatt, but anyways, yeah. So she returned. Thank you for reminding me of that. Let's get on the tag match because we're gonna get through that real quick. Um, I'm a little iffy about calling out wrestlers on botches because it's live, it's very difficult, very physical, very demanding. Mistakes happen. This match seemed riddled with mistakes. It was very herky-jerky to watch, which is strange because all four of these guys are immensely talented in the ring. It just wasn't the cleanest match for best 2 out of 3 falls tag match. I think when you have that stipulation, you expect a level of in-ring quality that was not present. And yeah, the ending was strange, I guess. But then it's magnified by because it was like they came and they helped DIY, and they kind of left a little bit too much air in between them attacking DIY afterwards. Because it was like, well, are you teaming up with him? And then finally, Montez got in the ring, and then uh, Angelo Dawkins attacked Ciampa, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember who attacked who, but anyways, regardless. And then
Yeah,
Michael Cole goes and explains it all like we're stupid. Well, I'll tell you why. It's because the Street Profits want a shot at the titles, and DIY took them out, and now they want to get revenge, but they wanted to make sure they're the ones with the champ. It's like, okay, yeah, we get it. We understand.
yeah.
Don't need you to explain it to me like I'm a fucking 5-year-old. Anyways, any thoughts about the tag match before we move on?
Um, I mean, I like the match for what it was. Like I said, the crowd was very disappointing. It really, really hurt the match. I don't know if the crowd not being into it kind of threw the guys off a little bit. Maybe they were trying to do a little too much to get the crowd into it. Uh, and yeah, the ending, the Street Profits getting involved, okay, but yeah, then having them try to explain it to us, like we get what's going on. Like yeah, like we're not stupid. We know we understand what the concept. You don't have to lay it out in detail. So yeah, it was. I was glad they had a tag match like that on a big show, but I was disappointed by the reception to it.
Um, yeah, and Jordan, big Motor City Machine Guns fan, wants to see nothing but great work from these guys because they're not the best on the microphone. They thrive in the ring. And the booking gave them an opportunity to showcase that, and for me, it didn't land, which is unfortunate. Um, moving on, we had a title versus title match, if you will. Cody Rhodes putting his undisputed Universal WWE World Championship on the line against Kevin Owens and the Winged Eagle title that he stole from Cody at the first Saturday night's main event in December. Um, so I say title versus title, really belt versus belt. The only one winning a title would have been Kevin Owens.
It's not even like it's not even belt versus belt. It's like the Winged Eagle title has no like it doesn't have any value, any meaning.
It has value to
It's
you and many of other people who love that belt.
well, it yeah, it's I like that title design. I
Yeah,
would love it if that became the title design, but it's not going to, because the one they have now isn't good. So it was cool. It was a cool thing to see it, but yeah, him winning the match, like or whoever wins the match, is not going to then carry both titles around for the next however many years. And if they're expected to, that would be stupid because it would be real inconvenient to have to carry two titles around like that. Um, but yeah, it was for what Kevin Owens was doing, claiming to be the real champion, carrying the belt around. It was a cool little gimmick thing, but yeah, it wasn't really like a belt versus belt.
um, it was symbolic. It was symbolic in
Yeah,
defeating
that's the word.
him. Yeah, it was. Yeah, but we can pray that after this, Cody will now use the Winged Eagle title as the main championship. Probably won't happen, but we can opine that on this show. Um, that said, the belt's clearly a rep. I'm sorry, it's clearly a replica belt that you went and got from the warehouse. Like it's not like something you would give a champion.
Yeah.
So, good on the WWE for that. But anyways, not like it has a nameplate on it or anything like that. But um, this was a hell of a match. This was, in terms of like in the ring quality, the best match of the night in I think in both of our opinions. Ladder match for the WWE Undisputed Championship. Um, Cody Rhodes went to a deep, dark place and really ended up beating the living hell out of Kevin Owens. Um, this match was uh, very physical, a lot of blood, a lot of color. They got a lot of color. And in the end, Kevin Owens looked like he had been killed. What did you think about the match?
I thought that this was how you have a match go when it's two guys who have a lot of history. You have a lot of bad blood built up between the two guys. This is how you pay that off. It's just a brutal match, kind of like how Punk and Drew was. A brutal match, both guys trying to kill each other, and that's exactly what this was. And yeah, it showed a grittier side of Cody Rhodes that I think people have been kind of wanting to see. He's really been leaning into the white meat babyface type of role, him, smiling and being that politician, that that clean cut politician. He went in and he, you know, put it all out there, and I mean he really just beat down Kevin Owens in the end, putting him through that ladder. um, and the thing that I kind of thought was interesting after the match was, he was talking a little smack to Kevin Owens as he was laying there on the ground, bleeding and his head stuck in a ladder rung. And he made a point to, he made a point to go over, get up on the announce table, and he was talking a little smack to KO or talking to Sammy, whoever.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, I like to see it. I thought it was a nice little change of pace there. Um, the crowd was kind of split between the two. Um, and yeah, it was just a great match, great physicality, and definitely interested to see where it goes from here. Because I mean, to me, I don't really know what Kevin Owens does from here, where he goes from here.
Hospital.
Because yeah, he'll go to the hospital, and then after that, as far as his wrestling career, I mean, he's lost how many of these title matches now? I mean, that's what, three straight PLE losses, I think. Um, Something to that effect. I mean, how many times can you lose before you just, it doesn't happen?
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see where he goes from here. With Cody, he's obviously put this thing with Kevin Owens to bed. It seems like now he's, gets to move on to wherever his path takes him to WrestleMania. Um, so yeah, it was a great match all around. Cody winning was cool. Um, yeah, just it was my favorite match of the night.
Cody has crossed the 300-day threshold, currently 301 days as champion. In terms of just the WWE Championship, that is the 13th longest reign in WWE history. I think if he makes it to WrestleMania, he'll be at 12, right behind, he'll supersede Diesel's reign, and he'll be 12th on the list. If he makes it to WrestleMania, of course. Um, he delivered that Alabama slam through the rung of that ladder. It looked as violent of a move as I've seen in the WWE in a very long time. Just the kind of violent catharsis that you can only really find in wrestling. Um, it was a good moment. It was impactful. Kevin Owens looked dead. I joked, did he at least, he was like his ass was in the air, and I was like, did he at least die with dignity? Because he looked terrible, and he got up, and it looked like his eye was black, and he was busted open. I don't know if that was he on the ladder or if he gigged out. I don't know, but um, I mean, it was a hell of a match. And Cody had just had, like you said, talking trash to either Kevin Owens or Sammy. I know at one point he said, "You wanted this, you deserve this." Um, Cody going to a deep, dark place to get the job done. And listen, if you're, Jordan has the shirt on, the American Nightmare Bullet Club shirt on. If you've been a fan of Cody for a long time, you know he's no stranger to the deep, dark places. This is a guy who will be ruthlessly cruel and does a great job of portraying that kind of character. I don't know if we're on the fast track to a Cody Rhodes heel turn. I don't know. I don't think that's something he wants to do personally. From everything he's really said in terms of how he has to conduct himself, having a young daughter, um, who his family is. I just don't know if he has it in him anymore as a person. But I mean, if we're going down that track, this could be one hell of a story because he did not look like the same Cody Rhodes tonight that won the championship last year at WrestleMania.
I don't think it's going to lead to a heel turn, personally. Um, like you said, I think he's at a point where he's the main champion. He's the face of the company, uh, and I don't think that's really where he wants to go, or WWE wants to go at this point. Um, I think it kind of shows a little bit more of like a grittier side to him, that he has
Hmm.
that ability to go to that place when necessary in order to win. Um, and yeah, I think it's a situation where he is. It almost seems like he's fed up with people, always like you know getting pissed off at him, and you know because of like getting mad at him because he teamed up with Roman to
Hmm.
face the Bloodline, and he was he got like before he teamed up with them, he said like I have my own things to do. The Bloodline's not my issue, and he gets pulled back into it, and then he has this whole thing with Kevin Owens, where Kevin Owens is mad at him because he joined up with Roman, and it's like he's like, I'm not the only one who's joining up with Roman here.
Yeah.
Like, why am I always the one getting getting attacked, getting turned on, things like that. It kind of seemed like it was more of just like, look, I'm getting sick and tired of this, and I'm gonna take out my some of my frustrations, something like that. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to monitor to see if it goes anywhere, or if maybe it was just like a little momentary thing where in the moment he kind of felt like it was needed because of how deeply hateful this rivalry has become
Hmm.
with Kevin Owens, that it was appropriate for him to talk trash to him because of everything that Kevin Owens has said and done to him. Um, but yeah, I don't think it's gonna lead to a heel turn either.
I at this point he had a friendly contest with AJ, a heel turn. Friendly contest with Kevin Owens, a heel turn. Um, but he has not quite had obviously the bloodline, he had that feud continue, but he has not organically began a real blood feud, I think, up until now that he's gotten to this point. But there is a gradual shift where he's not getting the same reactions he did a year ago or 10 months ago. And obviously, he's not getting booed. The fans still love him, but they don't love him quite as much as they did. Because, like you said, we had a dueling chant this evening. Kevin Owens clearly the heel in this scenario. Last week, he got heat. This week, half the fans are cheering KO, half of them are cheering Cody. Um, it is, like you said, I mean, this is something worth monitoring. And I guess we'll just get right into it now because this is the perfect segue. WrestleMania, 2 months away. Um, 2 nights, two main events. I don't believe in that co-main event crap. If you're the last match, you're the last match. That's the main event. There's two of them, two spots. Right now, one of them ostensibly occupied by Jey Uso. We assume he'll be facing Gunter because he's repeatedly challenged for that title, wanted that title, and he wants his rematch, I'd assume. Do you think that's the clear main event here? Jey Uso versus Gunter?
As far as like main eventing one of the nights,
Yes.
no, no, I don't think that match will main event. I feel like you have too many other things that could main event. Whoever Cody wrestles, whether it's whether it's Cena, whether it's somebody else. Uh, I think that will be the main event, and then the other night I think will be reserved for however the CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns thing turns out. Um, but no, I think Jey Uso. wrestling Gunther for the world title. That'll be one of the matches on the card, like they've done so many other Royal Rumbles, where they've had, they advertise it as main eventing WrestleMania, but that doesn't all because obviously they've always built things as having, co-main events or multiple main events, whatever. The Royal Rumble winner doesn't always main event WrestleMania. They get a world title shot. That's what they get out of it, but they don't actually main event the show every single time. It just happens to whoever wins it. It will, it works out that way to where they main event, but not always. So no, I don't think Jey Uso versus Gunther is going to be a main event match for either of the nights.
I'm trying to find when the last time the winner of the Rumble did not compete in the main event and of WrestleMania. And I'm thinking off the top of my head that it is, yeah, I guess it's Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. That was fifth. Well, I guess it was the first live match. The other matches were pre-show matches. So that opened the show.
Yeah,
So when he won the Royal Rumble in 2019, he did not main event WrestleMania. So there's a precedent for it not that long ago. And I know for a fact Shinsuke, when he won, he did not wrestle in the main event of that WrestleMania. So
yeah. There's actually been a
yeah.
lot if you really think about it. I mean, uh, just kind of spitballing like 2010 when Edge won, he didn't main event. Uh, 2011 when Alberto Del Rio won, I don't he didn't main event.
Mhm.
Uh, I think Sheamus when he won didn't main event it. Cena in '08 didn't main event. '07 Undertaker didn't main event. '06 Rey Mysterio didn't main event.
Mhm.
So if you really think about it, there's a pretty big precedent of people who win the Rumble don't always main event the shows.
Yes. Thank you for being a Rolodex. This is why I have you on the show because you know your stuff. Yeah, so yeah, it certainly doesn't mean he has to be in the main event of WrestleMania. Um, so we've already said we've made it poignantly clear that we think one of the main events might be Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, CM Punk in some form or fashion. It might be a triple threat match. Cody Rhodes might have a main event. There's a possibility maybe one of the women's matches main events one of these shows for the first time in years. Um, do you have anything sticks out in your head that you think might happen?
Um, I mean, I think it kind of seems like they may have John John Cena face Cody Rhodes. It kind of seems like that might be the path they're going as far as him competing in the chamber. Maybe maybe he wins Money in the Bank.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's the path they would go. Um, and yeah, I mean, like you said, with Roman, Punk, and Seth, it's like we said, it seems like it's going to be a triple threat. Um, I don't really see how they could navigate that a different way. Maybe there's a different way they could go about it, but that seems like the most likely path at the moment. Um, and then the women's matches, I think with the amount of talent on the men's side this year, I don't think that they either of those title matches would main event
Hmm.
either of the nights. So I don't think that'll probably happen. But obviously, as we've just seen tonight, as an example, WWE's not afraid to go a completely different direction that everybody thinks they're going to go.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how things shake out. But I feel like it's going to be, Cody, John Cena, Punk, Rollins, Reigns, some combination of those guys will be involved in the main events of both nights of WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. I mean, um, I mean, I'll just say this. I'm not super thrilled at the idea of it being Cody and John. I don't for such a that's the kind of match you have on different pay-per-view. For WrestleMania, I feel like you have to have a heel and a babyface. Um, what do you think?
I mean, ideally, yes, you would like that. And especially for Cody, because during this run he's had to face a lot of fan favorites. He's faced AJ, who's a fan favorite and gets cheered. He's had to face, like we just said, Kevin Owens, who is a fan favorite and gets cheered. Um, with Roman Reigns, now Roman's a babyface. The fans love him. For him to face John, especially with it being his last ride, and it being, if that were to happen, it would be a chance for him to win his 17th world championship, which is going to add more uh, reasons for people to support him and be behind him. I think if it were John and Cody, it would be a real disservice to Cody because of the fact that he's the guy, he's the face of the company, and if he were to have to face somebody who is, you know, a baby, could be a baby face or they're a bad guy, but they're really popular. I just think it would be a real disservice to him at this point. But at the same time, I don't know who that heel would be.
Oh,
I mean, I'm trying to think of who that could be that would make sense for him to face that is truly a bad guy that would get booed and wouldn't be considered a fan favorite. It's tough to say. I mean, it's really hard to think about it. Even if The Rock would have been involved in this,
hmm.
it doesn't seem like he's going to be involved in WrestleMania at all.
No.
Um, but even if he were to have been, again, The Rock's popular. He gets cheered, you so outside of somebody maybe like Drew, uh, but even then, people cheer Drew. Even someone like Jacob Fatu,
Yeah.
who is supposed to be this, this monster, this animal who just attacks everybody and everything in his way. He's getting cheered. So it's really hard to find somebody, a true bad guy that Cody can go up against. And I think that's been kind of his problem is as far as him not being cheered as much is because of the fact that there's so many of their bad guys are popular and the fans cheer them. So it'll be hard to say. I mean, as far as star power, as far as a passing of the torch, if you will, John versus Cody would be cool.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think it would be a real disservice to Cody to have to make him deal with that because he's gonna have to go up against somebody like John, who is obviously extremely popular in the later years of his career, and also with this being his last year, even more so. You don't want to see a guy in his last year lose constantly. Um, and the fact that John is not afraid to tear somebody to shreds on the mic, even to the point of kind of damaging their career a little bit,
Oh,
as we've seen
well,
with Austin Theory and with the early version of Roman Reigns, the big dog Roman Reigns. I mean, John will tear you to pieces on the microphone. Now Cody, is a little bit better equipped to handle something like that, but you still don't want to subject him to it. So it's a tough spot to be in.
I think Randy, if he came back, Randy's so great at getting heat, and yeah, he's cheered right now, but I think he could very, very well make that change. He has that ability. If anyone ever has, it's him. And I would love to see Randy and Cody in the main event, and I think it would continue telling this story that Cody's friends keep betraying him. I don't know how you get there. I don't know what would cause Randy to do that other than the fact that he got hurt just by, guilty by association. But yeah, I don't know. You brought up a lot of valid points. And I mean, until the Raw, this week and really going forward into Elimination Chamber, it's gonna be really hard to kind of parse this because there's it's still the same problem we had going into the Rumble is that there's a lot of guys who could be in that main event and only two spots. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't want to discount the fact that if Charlotte does challenge Rhea Ripley is a big enough draw. I think she could occupy one of those main events. And Charlotte is obviously too. I'm not trying to discount Charlotte, but I think Rhea is like on the women's side, the face of that division, bar none, far and away, the biggest person on the roster there. So I think she could warrant that maybe, but I don't know. Um, we've been going now for a little while, and we have a couple fan questions. I don't want to disregard. I want to give these some time. I want to, excuse me, once again, thank the people on Reddit for asking some of these questions. We love answering them, and we'd love to make this a tradition. So please ask us some questions in the comments if you have any. It could be about the Royal Rumble. It could be about WWE, AEW, really any wrestling company, anything wrestling related. We'd love to answer it. We will give you our best shot. Um, yeah, so question number one from Jafar the Cat. Do you think a Rumble type of match would work for AEW? What would the prize be, and how could it differentiate itself from the WWE one? AEW, of course, I'm sure Jafar is aware of this, but for those who aren't, um, they used to do every year a Casino Gauntlet Royale match at Double or Nothing, and essentially they were three suits, and people would enter, you know, in a group. It wouldn't be one by one; it'd be in a group, and then after the suits were done, or it'd be four suits, I guess. I obviously it'd be four of them, and it was five. It was five people each. And after all four suits came in there, the 21st person was the Joker, and they would come in by themselves at the end. And so they had that, and then obviously right now they have the Casino Gauntlet format, which is much improved to the Casino Battle Royale. Casino Gauntlet is um, up to 21 people enter at random increments. So it's not 3 minutes. It's not it's not 90 seconds. It's at random increments of time. Up to 21 people enter, but the winner is determined by pinfall or submission. So the first person who pins or submits someone wins the match. And it's a great match. You enjoy it a lot, right?
Yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah, it's I think the pinning someone, or I think it's a little wonky that way. Um, as far as you can pin them at any time and the match will just be over.
Yeah.
I think that's a little, I don't really get that part of it, but it's an interesting concept. So,
Yeah.
trying to be different.
And they've done a handful of them now. They just did the first women's one a few weeks ago. They did a huge one at All in London last year. And I really love that match format. But for the sake of this conversation, could they copy and paste the Royal Rumble essentially to AEW with a few minor alterations? Maybe. The problem is I don't know how much you can differentiate it because it is 30 people entering in. I mean, I don't know how much you could change that. I've been thinking about that all day and I really don't know the answer. Um, but what would the prize be? Is I think a very fun question. And maybe when you would do this and if it is a title shot at what pay-per-view. So I'll let you take this, Jordan. What do you think?
Um, I mean, you definitely could do it. Um, I mean, it would, like you said, I don't know how much you could differentiate it from the WWE's version. Uh, I think it would pretty much be the same if you were to do the same type of match.
Hmm.
I think it would be it would be good for AEW because they have a lot of guys. You have the big names who could be in it. You could have the feeder talent. Um, you also have you don't have two world champions, so it's basically like whoever wins gets to face the world champion. Um, and I think it would help. It would help, get maybe some guys who aren't being used as much, some exposure.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it would add, like it is with WWE, the Royal Rumble is one of their biggest shows. And I think it's because you have the surprise factor, you have the unknowns, you have the, people returning, new talent who's signed, things like that. I think it would work well. I think the crowd reactions would be really good for AEW. Their fans are typically a little more invested in
Hmm.
the big matches and stuff like this. I guess they would have to figure out where the title match would be.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know how that would work because they don't really have a marquee show like WWE does, like WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Like I guess theirs is like kind of like all in, but again, with how the attendance issue is with those big stadiums, it's a little wonky that way. So that part would need to be, fleshed out. But yeah, I think you could definitely AW could do it, and like it's going to be the same concept, but yeah, I think it'd be fun to see that in the AW environment.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of just a quick thing that comes to mind, you could do 21 contestants instead of 30. That would be one way to differentiate it. I mean, it's kind of it's AEW calendar is strange in that you have the Continental Classic in December, so the Owen Hart Cup tournament is in June because they want them to be roughly 6 months apart. And the winner of that last year got the shot at All In to compete for the title. In that case, it was Bryan Danielson, and there was a month in between him winning and him going to All In. So you could do it at Double or Nothing, but right now, as things stand, the next pay-per-view would be All in Texas because that's in late May and All in Texas is early July. So I mean, presumably the winner of the Owen Hart Cup will already be going there. So it depends. I mean, they don't have a set pay-per-view calendar other than the main four in the same spot every year. The surrounding ones have moved around a little bit. Forbidden Door is usually in June. Now it's going to be in August. All has been in August and now it's in July. Presumably there won't be a June pay-per-view, but we'll have to see. We don't really know yet. So, um, maybe you do it at Revolution and you go on to Double or Nothing for the title. I think that could work. But it would be a lot of fun, like you said. They have a huge roster and the fans are really invested, and I think they would get a lot of excitement out of seeing the surprise entrance. So I think it could work a lot. I think it would work well. And I've said that for a long time. I wish they had more of a Royal Rumble than they did the Casino Battle Royale because I never really liked that. It was seeing five people enter at once kind of ruins the point. I mean, you lose that aspect of seeing the entrance and how special it is individually. So, question number two from 157er, I guess. 157er. Where do you think Eddie Kingston could fall into the Death Rider storyline, or do you think he won't be in it? Right now, Eddie Kingston's slotted to return in June. He's been out for quite a while since he got injured in that match with Gabe Kidd for the New Japan Strong title. Um, Eddie Kingston has a lot of history with John Moxley. No secret to anyone. They've been enemies. They've challenged each other for the world title. They've been a tag team. They challenged the Young Bucks for the tag team championships together. Since John Moxley's been affiliated with the Blackpool Combat Club, they've been enemies again because Kingston hates Claudio and he doesn't like Bryan Danielson. But at the end of the day, those two have a lot of love for each other. And if Kingston were to return and see John Moxley be doing what he's doing, I don't think he'd be happy with him. I think he would try to stop him. But my question is, how much longer can you keep the title on John Moxley? I'm sure at some point we're going to dedicate a segment of this show to talk about the Death Riders because whether or not we think it's a problem, clearly the fans do because it's the most polarizing aspect of AEW right now. And I don't know how much longer they can keep that title on Moxley because the fans are not invested. They don't care anymore. They haven't even seen the title since Wrestle Dream because it's been in a fucking briefcase, presumably. Um, so can we wait until June for him to play a part in this? I don't know. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I don't think it's feasible for them to continue this story. I mean, it's like you said, the fan base is just not interested in it at all. You know, it's had no direction since it started. The whole motivation behind them wanting to do this has been unclear from the start, and it makes even less sense now because they've teamed up with he's teamed up with Jericho in the Learning Tree, and he's going against Jeff Jarrett, and it's just like you would think the whole motivation is for you to just beat up these older guys who are taking advantage of the company or whatever. You're talking about how bad of a direction there is, but they've never really specifically said why. Um, and I think that issue with clarity is one of the reasons why this has kind of fallen flat. I think the other reason is that Moxley's not that interesting. He hasn't been for a while. Wheeler Yuta is one of the most uninteresting people I've ever seen. Uh, you know, Claudio, obviously, I think both of us like Claudio a lot for what he can do in the ring. Um, but again, he's kind of fallen by the wayside. Pack, I don't care about really that much. Um, and yeah, there's not really anyone interesting in that group at all. There's so you have no interesting reason why they're doing this. You don't have an interesting person in the group that makes people want to tune in to see what they're going to do. So, what's the motivation to want to see that? Um, so hopefully this whole thing ends before Eddie Kingston even gets back.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, to answer the question, if he were to get involved in it, it would he could naturally slide into it because obviously he has history with Moxley. He hates Claudio. So you could definitely figure something out with that. And I mean, also too, he could, he could take that heartbeat of AEW type of role that I think they kind of wanted Darby Allin to have,
Hmm.
but he's continually seemed like he doesn't care about that. So he could take on that role. That's what he really wanted to do. But overall, I don't think this Death Riders story should continue, you know, to that point.
Yeah, I think if I mean, to cut through the fat, if they get to a point where they're at blood and guts and it's Team AW versus the Death Riders, Eddie Kingston would be a great addition to Team AW. He would create a great dichotomy, great contrast. He cuts phenomenal promos. We all know what he can do on the microphone. And I think that'd be really entertaining, but I hope it doesn't last that long. But we'll see. Um, like I said, I think we're going to talk about that more in depth at a later date because it's pressing, I think, for AEW. Question number three, the Sub. I asked them how to pronounce their name on Reddit because it's spelled very strangely. If AEW did a one night standalone Battle Bowl style tournament, what crazy tag teams would you like to see in it? The Sub said he'd love to see Hangman and Swerve. For those who don't know, the Battle Bowl is a semi-obscure pay-per-view from WCW where they had 16 odd couple tag teams join together, and there were 8 tag team matches between the 16 teams. And the winner of each match then went on into a singles over the top rope battle royal where they were all competing against each other. And the winner um, earned a shot at a championship at the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. I believe. But Vader was the champion when he won it, I think. Um, so anyways, I don't really know. I'm not the hugest, I'm not the hugest. I'm not the most knowledgeable person about early 90s WCW because I wasn't alive then. But I think it was for a shot at the title, but he was a champion, so it didn't matter. So anyways, um, yeah, so odd couple tag teams that could compete in this that I think would be interesting. Hangman versus Swerve easily comes to mind. I'll take that off the table. Um, Omega and Hangman could be good. They were a tag team, currently not on speaking terms, it seems like. Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee could be interesting if Keith Lee ever returns. Jack Perry and Jurassic Express. This is all low-hanging fruit, former tag teams that have broken up. If I had to pick a team that has never worked together and that I just think would be fun to watch, um, Darby Allin and MJF, because they have so much history, and I think they could have very interesting tandem offense. What about you, Jordan?
Um, yeah, this one's tough. I think Edge and Christian would be funny, or Cope and Christian Cage would be an interesting team up.
See the vision.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's tough because I'm trying to think what would be interesting team ups to have. Maybe like uh, maybe like Osprey and Okada,
Ooh, I was thinking
kind of
Osprey Fletcher, but Osprey
Os
Okada's good too.
yeah, Osprey Fletcher, Osprey Okada, um, Okada Omega, something like that. That would
Like
be
that.
That would be an interesting pairing. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know who else would be kind of an interesting team up. Yeah, I mean those are the ones that spring to mind.
Yeah.
Um, kind of like the main event guys teaming up. I mean, those would be pretty interesting. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Samoa Joe and Okada would be a fun tag team to see together.
Oof,
Um,
that would be yeah, that would be definitely a hard hitting tag team for sure.
uh, Question number 4 from the Mad Hooker. Rebook the Rumbles. Pick a Rumble and tell me why you made the changes you did. It seems there are more than one of you, so each of you needs to pick a different Rumble. There is more than one of me. I have my co-host. So, Jordan, if you had to change the outcome of one of the Royal Rumbles that you've watched, what would it be?
God.
Suppose it could be tonight if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, that's tough. I would say probably, and I'm hoping I'm not messing up the year, but 2022. I think that was the year that Ronda won the women's Rumble, and then I think Brock won the men's. If I'm getting my if I'm getting my year right, uh, I would change both of those winners, um, because obviously what happened after with Ronda is well documented. How her coming back at the Rumble was kind of the high point, and then it just went downhill from there.
Hmm.
So anybody else would have been way better than her to win that. And then Brock, obviously at that, around that time, you know, they were kind of shoving Brock on everybody's throats. Him coming into the Rumble and winning it, him entering Money in the Bank. Not maybe not this particular year, but whatever year he went in and took it from Mustafa Ali. Coming at the last minute, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That type of stuff. Uh, and yet Brock was being involved in every single thing they were doing. I would have rather seen somebody else win there. Um, and yeah, I mean, uh, as far as other Rumbles, I mean, probably well, 2016, definitely. Like Triple H, that was the year that Roman defended the title and Triple H came in and won it.
Yeah. Okay.
That was so stupid. And I think I was kind of tuned out at that point. Um, so I don't exactly remember who all was in it. Well, that was the year AJ debuted,
Hmm.
so that would have, that would have been cool. But yeah, just Triple H winning it was just so stupid. Um, 2015, which I think is arguably like the worst Rumble ever. One of the worst for sure. That was the year that people wanted Daniel Bryan to win, and he got eliminated early. And Roman eventually won,
Hmm.
but the crowd was just so pissed after Bryan got eliminated that they just rejected every single other person in the match. Big Show and Kane, for some reason, they teamed up and just eliminated all of the other fan favorites,
Hmm.
Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, people like that. Um, so that was a bad decision. Would have had Bryan win it. Um, yeah, there's definitely a long list of Rumble winners that you could go back and say were bad. Um, but I guess if I had to pick one specific for this question, I would probably say 2015
Okay.
when they have Bryan win it.
Um, yeah, for me, I go back to 2017. Sorry, there's like something in my throat. I'm sorry. I'm coughing a lot when Jordan's talking. Yeah, so 2017, Chris Jericho lasted an hour, got eliminated by Roman Reigns. Ultimately, Randy Orton won that Rumble. And he was in the middle of that storyline with Kevin Owens, and Kevin won. He beat Roman at that Rumble, and then he went on to lose to Goldberg at Fastlane before WrestleMania. And I think if he'd kept the title on Kevin Owens and Chris won that Royal Rumble, you would have been able to tell one of the best stories to that point that they'd had going into WrestleMania in a long time for the title. Randy ended up winning, and I don't remember who Randy faced at WrestleMania. Um, I don't remember the main event of that WrestleMania, but I remember that Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho story, which speaks to the quality of it. But anyways, that was a good question. To Brock Lesnar won in yeah when he won in 2022, that was a Royal Rumble that I'm pretty sure the rumor was Matt Riddle was going to win it until the day of, and Brock had a match against Bobby and lost, and then went on and won the Rumble. And I know Matt Riddle's not the best guy in the world, but I always loved him as a performer. I still think he's one of the best wrestlers alive in the ring, and I would have been really happy at that time if he had won. So I agree with you there. But um, question number five from Stun spelled backwards. Do that in your head. Uh, who is your favorite wrestler, Jordan?
My favorite wrestler uh, today,
Just his favorite wrestler. Answer
uh,
however you want.
favorite wrestler. I mean, I guess if we're talking today, right now, I would probably say Cody.
Mm,
I guess probably either Cody or CM Punk.
okay.
They're probably neck and neck. All time, I would probably say Um, Stone Cold or maybe Cena. Um, but I guess I was more of a Cena fan when I was a kid,
Hmm.
growing up. But as I got older and I started watching more of wrestling in its entirety, um, Stone Cold, it was always was really cool.
Um, yeah, favorite wrestler right now. I guess I would go with Zack Sabre Jr. Um, if I didn't think about it much. I mean, I like CM Punk a lot, but CM Punk in the ring is not what he used to be. Zack Sabre Jr. is my favorite wrestler to watch, and I love his promos. All time CM Punk, yeah. I mean, there's honorable mentions. Rey Mysterio, Sting. I love watching Roddy Piper. I love watching old Roddy Piper matches and promos. But yeah, probably CM Punk. I was gonna wear a shirt tonight for the show, but he didn't win, so I don't want to look like a jackass. Question number six from Kelson. Kelson is the moderator of the AEW Fan Hub subreddit, the Greatness of Wrestling subreddit, very large subreddits on the Reddit community. He hosts a weekly podcast called Ignition and uh, a post Dynamite review show. I've been featured on it sometimes. Kelson's a great guy. Thank you for asking the question, Kelson. And go check out the Greatness of Wrestling subreddit or the AEW Fan Hub subreddit if you're on Reddit. Um, Kelson asks, we covered it on our podcast, but I'd like to hear your thoughts about what's next for Tony Storm and the Mariah, or after the Mariah May storyline wraps. Jordan, I'll let you handle this. What do you want to see her win the championship? Let's start there at Grand Slam Australia.
Um, I mean, based on the way that they've booked Mariah May, I would say yes. Um, but I mean, I like Mariah May, so I would rather them have just book her better, have her face different people. Especially since Tony Storm was coming off of a long title reign. I would rather Mariah May have defended it against different people, um, and have Tony Storm do something different, but I don't really know what that is. Um, so I would say no. I just want them to book Mariah May better,
Hmm.
have her wrestle, more matches, defend the title on pay-per-views actually,
Hmm.
instead of her just kind of talking. Even though she's good at talking, but I like her to defend the belt. So I will say no. I wouldn't want to see her win the title back right away, but I feel like they're probably going to.
Hmm. So if she does win the title, where do you see her? Do you maybe a rematch down the road with Mariah May, or do you want her to go into a separate direction, work with the heel? What would you like to see?
Yeah, I mean, if she were to win it, I I guess I would say for Tony Storm to her for she would have to face a heel,
Yeah.
um, unless she were to turn heel herself, which I don't think she could do right now because she's kind of entrenched as a babyface.
Yes.
Um, but I'm struggling to think of a good heel, like a good top heel that she could defend the title against. Um, I mean, Mercedes obviously has the TBS title right now, so I don't think you'd want her to face her.
Yeah.
Um, so it's tough to say. I mean, maybe she could face Jamie Hayter, uh, something like that. It's again tough to say because I don't know of a top heel she could go against right now. It's just there's not a whole lot that I can think of.
Serena Deeb is sort of a heel. Uh, by and large, she's a heel. Deonna Purrazzo is a heel, and obviously they've been interacting recently, specifically when she had amnesia. But she's also beaten Deonna before, and Deonna's not exactly been booked like someone who can challenge for a world title. So I don't know. I personally, I would like to see Mariah May win at Grand Slam Australia. Um, I, mm, my lovely girlfriend who edits this podcast very well. We get lots of compliments about this podcast, and they all pertain to how it looks. It's never about what you and I say, which I don't know what that means. Everyone says a podcast looks great, but they never talk about what we say. So my girlfriend hates Tony Storm, seething hatred. I mean, burning passion to if she could get in the ring, she would shoot on Tony Storm. She hates her. Always has been for years now, regardless of the character, the rendition, whether she's heel or babyface. Never had an interest in her. And to be quite frank, when she came into AEW, she had no voice. She had no discernible characteristics. She just was someone who worked at WWE and had cachet. And Timeless Tony Storm has acquired that over time. She's become a discernible character. She has charisma, I guess, but I I don't understand why at this point she snapped and decided she wanted to be Timeless Tony Storm again. I don't understand how that helped this storyline. And maybe we could talk about that when we preview Grand Slam Australia at a later date, but um, it's all been really herky-jerky for me because it's like, wouldn't it have meant more to reveal that at Grand Slam Australia or like the week before? I don't know.
Yeah,
And maybe I'm overthinking this. I'm being overly critical, but it was very odd for her to do this on Collision apropos of her getting her ass beat.
yeah,
Wouldn't she have gained more sympathy if she waited until later? Um, I don't know. We didn't watch Collision tonight because we were watching the Royal Rumble, so I didn't get to see her promo that she was reportedly cutting on that episode
yeah,
about what was going on. But
yeah. I think the not to cut you off, but
no, you no.
I think the overall point of it is that trying to think in terms of booking, it would be better and more advantageous for them to have Mariah May keep the title because you have more top babyface women that you could see her defending it against,
Hmm.
like Jamie Hayter, like Chris Statlander, like Willow Nightingale, like uh, Julia Hart. You know, you could go, but Thunder Rosa again. You know, Harley Cameron. They've really been pushing her, even though I think she's technically supposed to be a heel, but she seems pretty popular. Um, thing like that. I think it would be more advantageous for them to for her to hold title and have them really, figure out what they're going to do with Tony Storm because she's been kind of just doing random things. Um, I think that's probably the whole overall point of this is that it would be better served for them to let Mariah May keep it and just have her defend it against different people.
Yeah, I would like to see Mariah win and go on a revolution and face Jamie Hayter. I think those two could tell a really compelling story together, and it would be different and a clash of styles. But in terms of the question, which is about Tony Storm, what's next? I'd like to see her take this talent that she's developed and cultivated and put it into a new character and a new identity because I feel like the Thomas Tony Storm thing's kind of run its course. Um, and if she loses, I think it will facilitate that. If she wins and she's become champion again, then I don't know because like Jordan said, there's quite frankly there's not a lot of heels in this division who can challenge her. I mean, what do you bring Britt back and make her a heel again? I don't know. I don't know what you do. I don't. What do you throw Deanna at her again? I mean, Deanna's not been made to look like a main eventer. She lost a four-way to Yuka Sakazaki, Queen Aminata, and Serena Deeb, and Serena Deeb was more focused on beating Queen Aminata's ass and on winning. So I don't know. And it's kind of the folly of having Mercedes Moné as a TBS champion because she's not lost since she's debuted. And I mean, unless they have a long-term story where they're planning on her dropping it to someone, how long is she going to keep that title until she loses finally? I mean, that totally takes her out of the main event picture. She could always vacate it. I mean, Samoa Joe did that when he was the Ring of Honor TV champion, but I don't know. I mean, I think you need as big of a women's match as possible to throw out that All in Texas show because you they need to fill that arena more. I don't even think it's half full yet. So you need to have the world title picture in a good place by then, and there are only so many more pay-per-views to make that happen. So I don't know, but yeah, I guess to answer the question concisely, I'd like to see Tony Storm develop a new character and not act like a golden age Hollywood starlet anymore because it's going on a year now. I've seen the act. I'm a little tired of it. Jordan, we talked about a lot tonight. We jumped from the Royal Rumble to WrestleMania predictions to a little bit of AEW. Any last thoughts about the Rumble?
Um, I would say that I would like there to be a Rumble internationally that is not Saudi Arabia. Um, I think that would definitely help with the crowd issue because these international shows have been fantastic when they've had other PLEs there. I think having a Rumble there, in Paris or in, Puerto Rico or Mexico, over in Germany, um, wherever, over in Scotland, any of those places. Obviously, it being Saudi Arabia is going to suck. Um, and I would hope that that's kind of a one and done type of thing. Uh, but I think that would help. As far as this specific Royal Rumble, obviously, big surprise. A lot of different ways this WrestleMania season could go, which I think is interesting. I think that's fun. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how things shake out.
Yeah, I think on a scale of 1 to 5, I guess I would give this a 3. It was good. There were some good aspects of it, but it certainly wasn't great. Um, and yeah, I would like to see them go internationally, but not to Saudi Arabia. I'm a little upset by that, but I mean, with the Saudi Arabia shows not canon events. The winner will be determined in a tournament in Brazil, and we'll pretend like it never actually happened. Um, but we've been going for almost 2 hours now. This is easily the longest podcast thus far in Petree's Pit. And thank you all for joining us. Once again, if you have any other questions, wrestling related, that you'd like us to answer, please leave them in the comments. We'd love to answer them next week. Um, and we look forward to seeing you all again. Once again, like, subscribe to the channel. And thank you guys for watching. Talk to him, Jordan.
Top dogs out.